headline. So we come under the luxury brand for passenger cars. And on the right hand side of the screen, you will see that there are some other brands that we are also known for. Bharat Benz, for example, is a very dominant brand. Similarly, in Singapore, the green buses that you see, the eco-friendly buses, they are also by Daimler. So, there's a bit of noise in the background. Can you all mute? Um, Thank you. So I take it for granted that you all know how to create cool BizApps, and you are a diva. So the BizApp is created. It's been running without any issues for the past few weeks, months, and everybody recognizes you as a great coder, a guru in this field. But then, have you ever thought that what happens next? This app that you have put all your energy, all your attention, your knowledge into it, is it in any form contributing to the organization's growth? Is it making the business processes better? Is it adding any value? you know so is anyone even using it? Okay, you can tell me that, yeah, of course I have logs and I see people, opening this page or this form or this application on their mobile, and they are using it. But then, is it bringing in the buck that you put in terms of person hours, in terms of infrastructure costs, where it all goes to? So I today am not going to show you how to create another biz app, or how to introduce some new features in this biz app, but I'm going to take you to a little bit satellite view of, here is the biz app, and then what can you do out of it and how you go about it. So typical questions that managers, CEOs, marketing people, they ask is that, say for in my company, how many models of cars did we sell this year as compared to last year, especially with the situation of COVID looming over our heads, and lot of entries of um, uh, interesting electric self-driven vehicles coming into the market. The questions are, how many invoices were generated last month and what is the projection for December this year? The dealership asks, how many people have actually walked in, because there is a lockdown, not many people are coming. Are there enough test drives? And so on and so forth. Then the marketing team says, hey, but if people are not coming, how do I market? How do I add value? So in these unprecedented times, the regular model of manufacturing and supply chain is broken. So how do you rise up like a phoenix from the ashes? You need to think in a different way. What you see at the moment in front of you is a typical sales funnel. So in sales and marketing, because that's the department I work for, generally the idea is that you engage the customer, and so you get a lead in the form of a phone call, an email, a walk-in, some flyers, and then you engage them in the form of offering them test drives, and you present them with some quotations, with some discounts, and then you enter into a contract, and then an invoice is generated, and then finally a sale is made. So the funnel is inverted this way because generally there are lots and lots of leads. Anybody who walks in, who calls, who shows interest, who picks up the flyer or clicks onto that email campaign is a potential lead. But how many actually pay the money? That is the biggest question. So now here, we'll take the example of a case study that we have implemented in our organization. And this is where the BizApp comes into being. So this particular BizApp is being used by our dealers. It is integrated with the CRM system. And the stage of the business process that it comes alive is the test drives. So buying cars is not like walking into a grocery store and buying fruits and vegetables. It's a very personal experience. People come in, they want to touch, they want to feel the seat, the steering wheel, they want to take it for a ride and say, do I really like the way it starts? Do I like the interiors, the dashboard, things like that? So the purpose of this Biz app is basically to keep track of the number of walk-ins or test drives that anybody has taken, because it will then give us an insight into the customer lifetime value. But you will say lifetime. Am I talking sense? Potential customer or not? Yes, no, okay. Lifetime. How do we do that? So basically, we used so, so let me explain what is a customer lifetime value actually. We used quantile regression for the analysis of this BizApp data in the backend, and we decided that we'll classify it into 5 segments. So, for example, Susie, she bought A class in year 2015, and she's responsive for marketing. So she is a very potential customer because it's been a while since it's 5 years since she brought any kind of car from us. Then the next customer B, bought an S class in 2018, which is fairly recent. S class is also a more expensive brand and doesn't respond to marketing. And then customer C, who bought a B class in 2015 and an E class in 2017, which means he is a returning customer and is very responsive to marketing. So for my new S class, this person is a very, I should focus my special attention, give some kind of promotions, discounts to this customer. So the landscape is such that all different types of data is coming into our regional data lake. So we are based on Azure. That was our choice of our cloud platform. And we have all the information coming in terms of customers, vehicles, marketing information, any logistics, that is supply chain information, everything is coming here. So it was obvious that we moved into the decision that we need an enterprise-wide data warehouse, which will take all this data, ingest all this data from the data lake, and then we can ELT it using either Databricks or Azure Data Factory. And then we store it in the data warehouse because we have so many different systems. And mind you, Daimler is present worldwide, but the overseas region where Singapore is the headquarters, it has 19 countries. So basically, we serve all the countries except North America, China, and Europe. So you can imagine the scale and the amount of data that comes to us every single day, the amount of transactional data and the various regional flavors to it. Because one form of promotion or marketing campaign will be very different from another country. They will have different legal issues and so on and so forth. So Synapse Analytics was the choice. However, there were a couple of challenges. Now the challenges included, of course, like cloud to, okay. So the first challenge was that we are not using plain vanilla native Azure. What it means is that we are not using the public cloud. We have beefed up the security around it. And so cloud to cloud ingestion of data is not allowed. Then data is highly regulated. Only a certain team called the onboarding team is allowed to ingest this data. There are lots of legal restrictions like GDPR, PDP, etc. because we have different countries. The regulations that apply in Korea are so different from that apply in Thailand and that apply in Singapore. So we have to cater for each and every of these markets individually. So when we are trying to build a regional solution, it is quite a bit of a challenge. Other than that, the biggest bummer that I experienced as a technical person was that auto resolve integration runtime was disabled. What it means is that beautiful free features that Microsoft has provided to us into the orchestration process that is in Azure Data Factory, mapping data flows, I cannot use. What it means is that I cannot use drag and drop tools for lookups, unions, joins. So I have to code right from the scratch. Then the second challenge that the second challenge that came out of this restriction was that the cool new Synapse Studio cannot be used at the moment, because Microsoft at the moment does not support self-hosted integration runtimes. If you want to know more details about it, I'll talk at a separate time, or feel free to connect to me. So at a very high level, this is the technical design where you see the rectangle on the bottom of the screen is the on-prem, all the data sources. So the test drive application basically sits in the gray cylinder on the far left, and it is sending and ingesting data from the test drive system, TDS, from the CRM, and from the ERP. And this is the CRM is integrated with Office 365. So the dealers and the employees of the company, especially sales and marketing, they have a very good view of who's coming, who is our customer, and so on and so forth. But now we want to integrate the data of all these 19 countries. So we move to the cloud. For moving into the cloud, we are using a combination of Azure Databricks and Azure Data Factory. More so about it a bit later. And finally, we are creating some cool business intelligence reports for insights into Power BI. So this is the resulting dashboard. I'm not going to spend time on showing you how to create dashboards and all. That's not the point. So where does the buck come? Where do you really see the value of this BizApp? So this CLTV, this we use quantile regression. The code has been written in Python and is integrated with Azure Databricks and is scheduled to run on a periodic basis. The customer information comes from the CRM system. The vehicle and the sale information comes from SAP. And this is churned, and then the projections are done. So depending on what percentage the algorithm allocates, the customers are classified into 4 categories, and then this information is written back into the application and the CRM system, and you will see something like a plaque, if you can see on the screen, like a platinum customer or a silver customer. This is similar to the air miles that you acquire when you fly on aeroplanes, and you're classified as a gold class customer or so on and so forth. So as a result of this, we could integrate not only data science but also business intelligence and provide our decision makers with as is data, that is the business intelligence reports, like what is it now and how is it going to be in future. And then the dealers know, oh, this is a returning customer, this person has been with us for so long, they are a platinum customer, maybe we can try and upsell them. Oh, this is a bronze customer and they haven't been to our showroom for a very long time, how can we help them? Do they need any special promotions? A little nudge, if I may say so. So what was the business benefit as a result of all this migration and amalgamation and collaboration of data massaging? So the marketing efficiency improved. So instead of sending mass mailers, mass campaigns, fairs, we can't do that anymore, right? We can't have auto shows anymore. The Geneva Auto Show is a big draw. Then the F1 racing that happens, that is a big draw. All this is not happening. So a lot of stress has come on the marketing team as to how to bring in more customers. So we could then, because of this algorithm and this kind of application through the BizApp, we could focus on the marketing. Then customer loyalty programs, this was rolled out. So if you like the brand, then you would want to be a part of it. And then cost savings obviously happened because we were not doing mass marketing but targeted marketing. So it saved us a lot of time, effort, money, and it also helped us create a more intimate, if I may say, relationship with the customers, because the person, as soon as you walk in or as soon as you call up, the person on the other end already knows who you are, what have you bought, and what would your choice might be in future. So before we go back to the survey, because I know I'm conscious of the time, we started a bit late, so it I mean I wasn't sure if I'll do a demo, but because of paucity of time, I'll just quickly show you what I have here. So this is my Python notebook. Basically, we use, because of the beefed up security, we use remote desktops to log into our platform. And then we have got lots of code because Azure Data Factory was lame in the way that we cannot use mapping data flows. So we used Python as well as Scala. Yes, I forgot to mention that one issue of using Python to insert data in large amounts of data into data warehouses posed a challenge, even though we used a very powerful cluster on Spark, because Python uses a for each loop. So the insertion of data goes row by row. So for a batch insertion from a staging database to Synapse was a challenge. And so we used Spark SQL on on a Spark cluster using Scala as the language. So here you see, just for demo, I've got a Python notebook. So basically, yeah, so in the notebook, then you can create graphs, and then you can show it on a dashboard which looks like this, and then eventually you can integrate it with your Power BI and show it. So this, I'm aware of the time, it is already 7:30, so I will not go into much detail on it. So please, yeah, leave your feedback, and I'm happy to take any questions. I think I rather leave time for questions than go rambling about the demo.
Hey,
Hey,
Manisha,
Manisha.
that was absolutely a brilliant session. We haven't seen the other side of BizApps today. You have given a lot of wisdom for us. And yeah, it's really an amazing session for us today from you. Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry if I sounded a little bit all over the place. It's basically the whole landscape of Azure, and
Yeah.
it's very hard to explain in such a short time. So apologies for that.
Hey, that was a great architecture, Manisha, I should say. I was really enjoying the show. Yeah, as you said, I think within 30 minutes you can't explain the entire architecture. It was a great show actually. It explained what the different stakeholders will look for from data. If you take the
Yes,
technical lens out of it and see what are the business benefits, right? Obviously, these questions every stakeholder of the business would have, and you rightly started with the business benefit, and you just took it away how we should technically plan to host this data if we have to effectively come up with these reports that would be required by the business.
exactly.
That was an absolute flow and great work actually. Yeah, I was very much interested about the security as you said, so I had a question around it. If you could help me with that, that'll be great. You were just
Certainly.
mentioning that you had some security issues to flow the data from your on-premise to Azure, right? So I was just interested. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't have hosted in the GCC, the government cloud. So when it
No.
comes to commercial cloud, you still imposed restrictions at the level of Azure, meaning like Azure team that you had who would maintain, if I'm not wrong. Okay, so
Exactly. So,
how did you manage? Because the
so in terms
PDP,
of,
yeah, the PDP of the entire globe would not go well, and the hosting of data would have to comply to each region. So if you can just uh, add more details to it, that would be great.
right. So that's a very good question. Thank you. So the first step was to implement single sign-on. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. So we have these mobile, login devices. So every time I try to log into my platform, then it sends a message through Office 365. It tries to say, "Oh, is this the correct Manisha?" If it is so, she has a phone. Send a token to her phone. Once the token comes, I have to swipe or I have to use my biometrics, and then it will be sent as a message back, and then I'll be authenticated within a stipulated amount of time, that is 30 seconds. If I am slow, I don't get access to it. That's the first step. The second step is we used algorithms to anonymize and pseudonymize the data. It was part of my demo, so in which we at the moment do not have approval to put people's name, email, address, phone, all this information on the cloud. On-prem it's okay, but not on the cloud. So we run this through an anonymization, pseudonymization algorithm that runs on a Kubernetes cluster. That is again going into a lot of
That's
details.
great.
So basically the cluster
That's
so
great.
that
That's great.
so
That's
before
brilliant.
the data is pumped, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So those were the things. And then I cannot directly copy paste data from my um, office provided laptop onto the cloud. For any kind of data ingestion, I have to go through a lengthy process in which we first have to get approvals. The Germans love lots of processes, guys. So we have to get approvals, and then that data, once approved, will have to be handed over to the MBRDI team in India. So that is Mercedes-Benz Research and Development Center in India. And that team then takes the data and converts them into Parquet files and drops them onto the data lake. From the data lake, then we pick up those Parquet files and either push it into our data lake or into a staging database or directly into the DWH. So then you will question, oh my God, that's so slow. Yes, but it is also secure because we have blocked any kind of unwarranted entries into our environment. So there's a heavy blocking on the firewalls. I cannot whitelist IP addresses. I as an architect and a developer don't even have contributor rights. So it's
Mm-hmm.
heavily, guarded, which is
Oh,
understandable.
yeah, yeah, that's great. So I understand you've used all the Azure, components from the Microsoft stack, right? The
Stack,
data
yeah,
lake as well.
including,
Okay.
yes, and including Key Vault. So one of the interesting things that we saw in Azure Databricks was,
Mm-hmm.
see, so for orchestration, that is movement of data from point A to point B, generally Azure Data Factory is the choice because since version 1 it has enhanced a lot. Beautiful new features are available, and there's something called service principal key, and it's a password that you can keep in a key
Yeah, key
vault. Key
vault.
vault is
Yeah.
like a safe deposit box. So it is safe and you need not share it. You just create a linked service and it's like a adapter, yeah. So I carry my Singapore laptop to Japan. As long as I have an adapter, I can get the power supply. It's something like that. But in Azure Databricks, that was not there. So if I create a PyODBC connection, the username and the password is available in plain text. So we also had to involve the key vault in our notebooks as well.
Oh, that's a good thing to know.
Any other
That's
question?
great. I'm
Yep,
good.
Manisha, there is a question from Gina. So regarding the customer LTVP, so how is it calculated, and is there any service like customer insights used for this kind of customer LTVP calculation?
Right. So, okay. So when you say customer insights, yes, definitely. I'm not at a liberty of discussing at length the algorithm that we use, but we generally use a couple of let me give you an example. So customers age range, for example. So very rarely a Mercedes will be bought by a person who's younger than 20 years, 25 years, because uh, this type of car is not an economy car. So people who are in a certain age range and a certain salary range will go for it. So then there were also some studies done on gender and salary and what type of okay, but the interesting thing with gender was that initially in the 19, because we have to look at the historical data as well, data science problems, they require volumes of data. So when we looked in the 70s, 80s, 90s, we saw that there were more number of male owners of these cars. But of late, we are seeing an interesting trend where we see that even ladies are owning these cars, which is a good sign, yeah, kudos, which means there's a growing interest. And then we also see that people generally buy within the different classes or different brands that we have. The first car, they go for a lower end, but if it's a returning customer, they go for higher ends. Then different countries have different preferences. So, for example, we'll sell an S class in US or UK or Australia, but there will be more number of C classes in Korea or Japan, and that is understandable because they have other cheaper and very durable options like Honda and Mitsubishi and all. So, where is the competition? I'm happy to say that because of all these insights that we get from customers and from the countries, it is very interesting to see that in which country what type of model will be sold in what age group, what salary band, and what age range. If I cannot divulge more because this is almost
Yeah,
like a business
Yeah,
secret.
I
So
understand.
yeah, yeah,
please
yeah.
forgive me, but I
Okay.
hope you get the idea.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So the
So,
next
Manisha, to
question. Yeah,
yeah,
go
yeah,
ahead,
go
Geeta.
ahead, go ahead. So, to put it in a short form, I think you haven't used the Microsoft Customer Insights, but rather you have created the insights, the reports that are needed for the insights. Am I right to say that,
Ah,
Manisha?
okay. What's the question on CI/CD pipelines? The DevOps.
Yeah,
Abu
there
That's
is a
Bakr.
question.
There is another
Yeah,
question.
DevOps. Okay, okay. So that is the next step. Yes, DevOps we are going to integrate. At the moment we are using GitHub. So we have the enterprise level version of GitHub, and but it is the at the moment the onus of the developer to keep writing the code and putting it in GitHub. But as an architect, that's actually one of my next OKRs to implement DevOps as a part of this. So that's a very good question, and thanks for asking it, Abu.
Okay.
What
And
else?
one last question. So, do you folks consider Azure Databricks?
Uh,
It's from
and did
Sanjeev.
you? Yeah. So okay. So yeah, I did mention it, right? So the problem that we had with Azure Data Factory was that for mapping and wrangling data flows, it's a type of a component for transformation of data. We could not use Azure Data Factory. So we were just able to use for each loop and copy data transform and lookups. That's all, which was very less number of features. So we had to move to Azure Databricks where we use data frames for all the calculations in memory. So we are using Azure Databricks on a cluster S8, S8 V3, and we are using Scala for coding, Spark SQL for all the transformations. Does that answer your question, Sanjeev? Oh, hi, Sanjeev. You are here.
Hey, Manisha, really sorry. I was in a cab and, I partially, heard things. So perfect answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. From us.
Uh, Super presentation, by the way.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yep. Thanks, Manisha. It was a brilliant presentation, and you covered quite a lot of questions from the audience as well. Very nice of you, and thanks for joining us today. So,